Radio.
Welcome to the coronavirus pandemic. I'll take coronavirus for 100. Fever, chills, shortness of breath, loss of taste or smell. Where to stay at home and isolate. Correct. Coronavirus for 200. Inability to stay awake, persistent pain or pressure in chest, trouble breathing. Where to seek immediate help. Correct.
Coronavirus for 500.
Crippling and potentially dead infectious disease eliminated in the United States with vaccination.
What is the polio vaccine?
Correct.
I'll take coronavirus for 700.
The Daily Double! Should I take the coronavirus vaccine? Wait. Hold up. This is not a game. It's time for serious discussions. We have coronavirus vaccines, but not everyone is comfortable taking them. Here's the facts. Based on what has been proven about vaccines for other diseases, COVID-19 vaccine may help keep you from getting seriously ill, even if you do get the virus. Getting vaccinated also may protect people around, particularly those at greater risk for severe illness from COVID-19. We don't yet have all of the answers. Get informed, talk to your healthcare physician, and make the right decision for you. This is a message supported by the Washington State Department of Health.
1, 2, get down!
What's up, big and little homies? This is Masvita Maraire, host of Seattle Sports Weekly on Rainier Avenue Radio World, your one-stop shop for Seattle sports. We cover preps, we cover college, we cover pro, we cover it all. Huskies, Mariners, Seahawks, Garfield, South, Roosevelt, Metro, King County. This is where you want to listen to for all the sports that's happening in Seattle. Seattle Sports Weekly on Rainier Avenue Radio World.
See a bad.
Hello, listener. What's important to you about what's going on in your community? Are you interested? Are you concerned? In any case, I invite you to tune into my show, Seattle Here and Now, on Rainier Avenue Radio World. Why? I will be covering a wide range of topics important to you and impacting the community. Each show will have a special guest or guests to share with you information on a variety of subjects that are happening here and now in Seattle. I promise I will work hard to make my show informative, interesting, and entertaining. Be sure to listen to Seattle Here and Now on Rainier Avenue Radio World.
If you or a family member are 55 or over and need nursing home level care, but want to keep living where you are, check out Providence Elder Place PACE. This program offers healthcare, housing, transportation, and recreational activities. There are no co-pays or deductibles, and it's covered through Medicare and Medicaid. Providence Elder Place PACE works to keep you healthy and in your home. Call 206-320-5325 or visit providence.org Elder Place. Providence.org Elder Place.
Would you like to see when your favorite Rainier Avenue Radio show comes on? Check out our show schedule, updated weekly at rainieravenue.world.
You're listening to Heartbeat Radio. I'm your host, Cindi Bright. Heartbeat Radio is a conversation aimed to take the pulse of corporate America. Opportunities for people of color, we're getting lost in the shuffle of change. I'm that provocateur of change. The hearts of corporate America are addressed. Access and opportunities will be accelerated for all people. Through Heartbeat Radio, you will gain a deeper understanding of what is necessary for change. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Heartbeat Radio. I am your host, Cindi Bright. Tonight, we have a great guest that's joining us this evening for a conversation. Her name is Kathleen Mulkerin, and she is running for the Walla Walla School Board. Before we introduce her in, let me introduce in my co-host, Joy Stanford, here with me this evening. Hey, Joy. How are you tonight?
Super excited. It's my Emerge Sisters.
Why is it that I always feel like when there's this Emerge Sister reunion, I always feel left out in this conversation?
You're not left out. You're one of my best friends. You are not left out, but you are an honorary member. And you do, Karen Besserman just like we did. So you're not left out, my sister. You're not left out.
Well, let's introduce our candidate, and let me read to you some of her profile for the listeners.
And it's Mulkerin.
Well, I printed up her bio, and it says...
Really? Oh, I've been pronouncing it wrong. Okay, she's going to slap me then.
Let's introduce her in. Kathy, welcome on to Heartbeat Radio. Let's bring her on first. Hi, Kim. How are you this evening?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Good. Why don't you correct who's right?
Who's right?
It's Mulkerin.
Mulkerin. Oh, I was pronouncing all of the vowels. I'm sorry.
I'm a stickler for that. Before I go on air, I make sure I'm looking at people's names and understanding how to pronounce them. So did I pronounce it right, Mulkerin?
You did.
Only because Dr. Tracy Williams corrected me when I was talking to her about you.
I love that. I love Tracy.
Kathy, I'm just going to read some of your background to our audience and just to level set so that we can jump into your candidacy. So you grew up in Walla Walla. You attended Walla Walla Public Schools. You went to Prospect Point Elementary, Garrison Junior High. You graduated from Walla Walla High. You went on and got a BA in psychology from the University of Portland. You hold a Montessori teaching certificate from the Institute Northwest and a Master's of Education from Primary Montessori, Loyola University, Maryland. And I know from social media, you just graduated and got your paralegal degree. So let's just give it up for the Black women who are out here doing all this stuff.
Black girl magic.
Thank you.
Yeah, so quite an impressive background. Let's hear from you and your reason and your decision. Why did you decide to run for the school board?
Oh, well, ultimately what pushed me was being a parent of a student in Walla Walla Public Schools. So my son is my greatest everything. So of course, watching him navigate through the school district, and for the most part, he's had a really good experience. He's done really well. I am behind him every step of the way, helping and supporting him. But a few stumbles along the way with, access to programs. And so that led me to kind of reaching out to the administration and trying to gain access into different programming and making sure that students of color had access to programs within the district. And through that, I started having quite a few parents reaching out to me as well. And what I learned from that experience is they didn't feel like they had a voice in the district and they didn't feel like they had access. And I'm not somebody who's just going to stand around. So I put myself into those places and I, brought people along with me. And so that's what it is for me is representation matters. I would be the first Black woman on the school board. And I feel that my lived experience as a person of color and as a Black woman would give the opportunity to other people to step up and have a voice as well. Because if I can't answer the questions for them, I will bring them to the table and make sure that their voices are heard. So that's really my why.
You live in rural, you're in, I want to say red country over there in Walla Walla. So you grew up and went through the school system there. Correct. Talk to us about what it's like to be, as if we don't know, I guess, because we all live in the Seattle area. I was going to say, talk to us about what it means to be Black in all white spaces, but then I think that's a common phenomenon. But you're in a much more red part of the state. What is happening there with you in terms of your campaign and being a Black woman running for public education? That has to be an interesting.
It is interesting. I do have to give a shout out to Emerge, because if I had not done the Emerge training, I would definitely feel completely alone. I have my Emerge sisters and my Black Emerge sisters to support me, to call and talk to them, because, I've been trying to ask people in the community, how many Black women have ran for office in Walla Walla? And when I ran in 2018 for Walla Walla County Clerk, I also would have been the first Black woman to sit in that position. I unfortunately didn't win, but now I'm here running for school board. It's lonely, but it's also empowering, because I know that it's super important, the work I'm doing. And I do have a lot of support as well. I know, because I'm from this community, because I grew up here, I know a lot of stakeholders. I know just a lot of people in this community, and I make sure that, I'm listening to what they're saying. So, there's the little bubbles that you live in too, which happens over in Seattle and the West Side and in the more urban areas that, you get in your bubble. So the same thing happens in rural America. You stay in your bubble, or you you don't leave your bubble much. But I feel like I am able to kind of be a bridge between those bubbles, because I don't like to pigeonhole myself in one area. I like to know what's going on in my community as a whole. So whether I disagree with people or agree with people, I still want to know what they're saying.
How tell us how you kind of answered that, but because I know your story, and I heard Aaron Jones's story and your story for the first time together, and I don't know if that was your first time hearing Aaron Jones's story, but how is this story of who you are and growing up where you grew up and with the family that you grew up with, your family, how does that work into your campaign, your why? How does that contribute?
What does that mean? What are you asking?
She knows.
Tell me a story. So I am a biracial woman. I'm Black and white, and I was adopted pretty much at birth, 6 weeks, from a white family. I was born in North Dakota, Fargo, North Dakota. So if you want to talk about rural, that's even more rural. And we moved to Walla Walla when I was 4 years old. My dad started the cancer center at our local hospital. And my mom, 1 year after being in Walla Walla, ran for school board. She's a former three-term school board member. So I feel like, my whole being and growing up is all around education. My first job was teaching. I taught swimming lessons. I babysat. And then after college, I went into teaching as well. And everything comes back to education. But my family, really is that kind of foundation where I talk about the bubbles. I'm able to navigate in a lot of different worlds because of who my family is, but also because I'm a Black woman in my lived experience. So I understand, the inequities of trying to be a teacher in the school system. Actually, my first job interview, and this was not in Walla Walla, this was in Vancouver, Washington. My first job interview to be a teacher, I walked in the door and they saw me and they questioned whether my name was really Kathleen Mulkerin. So that was my first experience trying to get a job as a teacher. And then I've lived in Baltimore. I've worked in Seattle as well. And then I worked in Walla Walla. So, it's that lived experience. And also being a student, you mentioned I'm just finishing up my second master's degree in paralegal studies. And this was the first time in any educational experience I've ever been in that I had a Black teacher. And so, I went to school a lot. So, and that experience was extremely fulfilling. To know, when she talked to us, I know that she could understand my questions and where I was coming from. And so that was extremely meaningful to me. And so, but it took being, going to school so many times and in my second graduate degree to get to that experience.
And that's kind of sad, because I've had students ask me, have you had Black teachers? And I'm like, yes, I have. But to hear you say that, you didn't get it till you were in your master degree, college life.
I didn't.
Over 30, I'm like, what in the world? So yeah, what is that like? So thank you. I knew you'd understand that question. Because I just think that plays such a big part in who we are and why we run and everything. And how's your family supporting you there in Walla Walla?
Amazing. When I first thought about running, of course, the first person I asked was my son, what do you think about this? Because he had gone through it with me prior in 2018. And so I wanted to make sure that, I wouldn't mess up his life. But he was super supportive, and I started thinking about running for office or for school board last fall. And, around the holidays, I was just kind of like second guessing myself. You get in your head, you start, thinking, imposter syndrome, like, am I really worth this? Can I really do it? And, but I kind of mentioned it to him and he's like, why do you care what they think? You're going to be great. Just go and do it, Mom. And so I was like, there you go. I got my answer. And I knew all that. It's just nice to hear it, So, and my parents are super supportive too. I'm super protective of my parents. They live here in town. My brothers I have 4 brothers and they live all around the country. So they're all supportive. So it's great.
Good.
Kathy, right now, education is, I'll just say, a hot topic. And I'm going to preface that and say public education has failed brown and black kids across this country and continues to do so. And we, as a country, are continuing to invest money into systems that are not supporting our kids. So my question for you is kind of twofold. One, what are your thoughts about how to progress public education for brown and black kids? And the second is, what are your views about the upheaval over critical race theory, teaching that into our kids?
Oh, great questions. I'll tackle the second question first. We don't teach critical race theory in K through 12 education. It's really an extremely narrow academic field that is at a scholarly level that even, if you look at undergraduate, they don't really talk about it that much. So, in terms of talking about critical race theory, we're not teaching it, especially in Walla Walla public schools. I've actually talked with administrators and board members, and we're not teaching it. So in terms of—
It's a non-issue, right? It's a non-issue.
Right. For me, it's a non-issue. I'd rather talk about other things like your first question. In Walla Walla, we have 96% students of color in our district, and 40% are Latinx. I think that it's critical that we do more to look at data, also to hire teachers of color, that we support those teachers and provide an environment where they want to work here. I think it's important also that we have counselors that support mental health for our students of color. I think that it's important that we bring in our parents to support this, what is really happening at home. I think that a lot of times the parents' voices are left out. That's what I'm finding as a parent. This is the first time, my experience as a student and then a teacher, and now as a parent, it opened my eyes to the fact that, parents don't feel like they have a voice to step up and to share this. It's a very difficult thing. I don't know how we really move forward with changing the whole system. It's gonna take time, but first we have to recognize that there is a problem and that Black and brown students have to have more of a voice and have to be a focus, that they deserve to have the education because they're brilliant. They have to be treated as if they are the most brilliant students there so that they actually get a chance, which is sad. And they are, like, all students have the potential. And so to not recognize that they have the potential to learn just like white students do, then we're missing something. We just really have to focus on our brilliance. And that's my focus. All of our students are Black and brown students in Walla Walla. They're brilliant. I've met some of them, a lot of them. My son, my son's horn, of course. But I think we pigeonhole them, basically thinking that they're from low income families. They're from, they don't have means, and instead of looking at their potential. And if we just really break it down to their potential, I think we can make some strides. But data is also a huge thing. Like why, we just look at race, but there's so much more nuances to, the data of just looking at our students based on, students of color, or breaking it down as to it's a race thing. It's not. There's more to it. So,
well, we've had on Heartbeat, we bring elected people on here too, and we've had at least one elected official who openly made a comment about not all kids are deep thinkers, and so I was, I think, a bit taken back by that comment, because when I think we challenged that. When I pushed back, that felt to me like the typical narrative about that is being painted in contrast to what you're just describing, because every child does have that potential. But if adults don't believe in them or don't believe that they're capable of it, what are your views? Because I know there's some work going on to try to lower the graduation credits requirement for, I think it's high school. What are your thoughts about lowering credits for students to graduate?
I think she said she wanted to bring it down to 1 something or whatever, because isn't it 120? I don't know. And she wanted to bring it down because we don't have enough deep thinkers.
Well, that's disappointing because I feel like you said, I mean, I think our students do have the capability and the potential. And we're not giving them that opportunity. In terms of graduation rates, I think it's tough because I think that, you know, there's lots of ways to measure somebody's abilities and potentials and getting them through the credits. You know, it's different from when I went through the school system, and I'm struggling with my son and trying to work through, are you going to have the credits? And it just seems it's so confusing that why are we just not teaching our kids and making sure that they're in the class, taking the classes, you know, it seems very complicated now. So, I mean, looking at it in terms of how do we simplify this and make sure that, you know, students are getting what they need to, you know, graduate and to continue on, whether it's into vocational trades, whether it's a 4-year degree, whether it's, you know, a 2-year degree, whether they don't and they just go straight into work. To me, it's very complicated, and we have to make it a little bit more simple and straightforward.
Would you agree that the environment that students have are a direct contributor to their success? Let me say that different because you both have question marks on your face. What you talking about, Cindi? I guess what I was getting at is, you know, as I listened to you describe what you were talking about, the belief in all kids. And I mirror that with my work in corporate America and the lack of diversity progress. So my head always goes that direction. Oftentimes, the lack of success is a direct correlation to the environment that we force people to be in. And so if I'm thinking about a school system, a school board, if there are not teachers that look like them and or people who may be hiding the fact that they believe that these children are not deep thinkers anyhow, would you agree that that is a contributor to the problem that we have in our school system?
Absolutely. I mean, if we don't believe in our students and give them an environment to succeed in, then they aren't going to succeed, or they're going to struggle to succeed, or some will succeed, you know, by chance. I think that, you know, I guess to look back on an example, my brother, who was 2 years ahead of me, had a friend, and his senior year, he was kicked out of his home, and my family fostered him because he was a good friend and he was a good kid. And he went on and he was successful. He went on to a 4-year degree at Whitman College, and he's a successful business person to this day. And I feel like, you know, my family recognizing his potential, providing him with a safe environment, is kind of the same thing that we need to do in our schools. We need to recognize that, you know, our students have potentials. We need to see that they're struggling, whether it's at home or in school, and we need to help them. There's so many things, variables to a student's success, whether it's in the classroom or outside of the classroom, that teachers recognize, and it's whether or not they act on it. It's whether or not they're supported by their administration. It's whether they're supported by counseling, whether it's supported by outside groups that work with schools. We have the health center here that helps with, you know, of whole health, mental health, and physical health, that supports our students. And I really think that that's an important program to help assist our students in getting just recognizing that they need a little extra. I really do feel like our schools would be better with more counselors and staff. I just read something today that 40% of Black students would rather go to a counselor than to their teacher for mental health.
Right. Yes.
And so I think that's probably across the board for Black and brown students. So I think that we just really have to, you know, like you said, provide an environment where people see that they need help and support them and give them that help.
Does Walla Walla have police officers in the schools?
Yes,
Ooh,
they
good
have.
question.
Yes, they do. It's,
They do.
they're actually in the county, so it's the sheriff.
Okay, so we have that too. And I don't know if he's going to be there this coming year. Ooh, that's a good question. I better find that out. But I did hear a rumor that we are cutting back in our district, and I want to know if this is true for other districts. So I've been asking a lot of people, Kathy, are we cutting back on social workers? Because in a time our kids are coming off post-pandemic, a year of uncertainty and upheaval and isolation maybe, and not seeing their friends or not being able to do whatever sports, why would we be cutting back on our social workers? How does that look in your district?
Right. So recently there's a school board meeting talking about some of the funding that they got through COVID and trying to support that work of having extra counselors in the school. So I definitely support that. And I want to increase that actually, because one of my biggest concerns post-COVID is the mental health of our children and our staff and our parents. It's been an extremely stressful time for all of us. And I think it's really important that we support all of our students and our staff and our parents through this transition. So I definitely would increase that.
Kathy, we've got just a couple, 3 minutes left. I wanted to make sure I asked you, are you running for an open seat? And do you have an opponent in your campaign?
Yes, it's an open seat, position 1. And I do have an opponent, just one opponent. So I don't have a primary. I go on to the general.
Are you being respectfully treated as a candidate running for this seat?
I have not spoken with my opponent. I do have seen her comments and Facebook and her website. I'm not saying that people, I wouldn't say it was come from my opponent, but her supporters have definitely not liked some of my Facebook posts and my pages, and I've gotten some information back that I racially tinned. Let's just say that.
As soon as you paused, you didn't even have to say one more word.
Exactly. We knew exactly where that was going. Yeah, we knew exactly where that was going.
Right. It's unfortunate because, I just think it's unnecessary. I will never attack anybody's character. I don't know my opponent, and I wish her the best. And I hope that she's, supported in everything that she needs to do. But I'm running my campaign, and I intend to win this. So
we are focused.
Right. We're going to post your website up on the screen here so that people can see your website and go to it and donate to your campaign. I assume you need money.
Yes, every campaign needs money. We need money.
There we are.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Jessica.
Caring for kids. Yes.
That is Councilwoman Jessica Forsythe out of Redmond Council following you. I know she's another Emerge sister.
Yes.
What final words would you like our audience to hear, Kathy? We want to thank you for coming onto the show and letting us have an opportunity to talk with you today. Any final words before we head into break?
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been my pleasure. I love watching you guys. So to be on here is just amazing. I appreciate that. One little fun fact, Mulkerin for Kids was my mother's slogan. So I'm taking on the legacy, and I intend to win as well, and to carry on the legacy of giving all of our children the best opportunity possible in Walla Walla and throughout the country.
Yes. Well, we are so rooting you on, Kathy. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for this today. Beautiful Black Girl Magic 30 minutes. This was awesome.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back after the break. Thank you, Kathy.
Have that up the stacks. Our favorite black businesses. Screaming and rooting for everybody that's black. Yeah. Yeah. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Yo. Why can't we be friends?
This is Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. And when I'm not stopping a Mercer Island street brawl, I'm listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
All of us have struggled through the COVID-19 pandemic, and many of our communities have been particularly hard hit. Some things definitely need to change, but a few things should stay the same, like protecting your child from serious diseases you can prevent now. Preventable diseases like measles, mumps, and whooping cough. Is camp, childcare, or in-person school on your family's agenda? Give your child a healthy and safe summer and school year by making sure they're up to date on vaccinations and well child visits. You have the power to protect. Call your healthcare provider to find out what vaccinations your child is due for and make an appointment today. If you need help finding a provider, visit parenthelp123.org or call the Help Me Grow Washington hotline at 1-800-322-2588. An interpretation is available.
You're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. I'm Granville Emerson along with my partner, Ronald Pepe King. And we host the show Little Line Sports right here on Rainier Avenue Radio.world, where we talk about football, basketball, local sports, national sports, Seahawks, UW, Seattle U Redhawks, Garfield Bulldogs, all that and more right here on Little Line Sports on Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Yo, what's good? It's D Money. You should definitely check out Fresh Juice every Wednesday, 9 to 11 Pacific, right on Rainier Avenue Radio.
With pint-sized Patron, P-Treasy the Don. Y'all be sure to clean your mirrors as we play brand new hip-hop and R&B from locals and worldwide.
Yo, it's ID Yourself, a.k.a. Malcolm Flex. Make sure you check out Fresh Juice every Wednesday, Pacific Standard Time from 9 to 11 p.m.
And to get those exclusive interviews that we be doing.
Sipping a brand new Fresh Juice every single week.
Yay! Every Wednesday, 9 to 11, Rainier Avenue Radio.
Yay!
Dealing with COVID-19 is uncharted territory, and everyone has different challenges. People may feel anxious, down, or overwhelmed. For some, these feelings can lead to changes in sleep patterns, an increased use of alcohol or drugs, or withdrawing from the people around them. If you know someone who's having a hard time coping, you can help by reaching out to talk and listen. To learn more about how you can help someone in need, call the Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-TALK. Brought to you by the state of Washington.
You're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Check us out on social media. Facebook and Instagram, Rainier Avenue Radio.world, and on Twitter at Rainier Ave Radio.
Sacks, I favor black businesses. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Yeah. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Yo.
Welcome back to Heartbeat Radio. I'm your host, Cindi Bright. Joy Stanford is my co-host here with me. Joy, wasn't that a great conversation with
Kathleen? Oh my gosh. I just love that we keep bringing on and amplifying all of these women who are running in all these different areas. And I have to ask you, do you see the shift from 2018? Is it just me?
It's not the same. It's not the same as, that was only 3 years ago. And so what an amazing, the amount of people that have stepped up and the caliber of people that have stepped up.
Yes.
Interesting thing for me, it was important for me to highlight Kathy's background because I classically hear and see on social media the folks who continue to use the typical political language that they're not qualified for these jobs, or that they're not, it's not their time, or they don't have blah, 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 blah. Just watching that and watching how Black women are excelling beyond everyone. This woman Kathy has done incredible things I didn't even get a chance to ask her about. She has a project that she started over in Walla Walla.
Yes.
She's just done some amazing things. And so it's unfortunate when we hear, it's predictable, but unfortunate when we hear that opponents are being nasty and trying to discredit her. But
especially at that level, you know what I'm saying? Like at any level, really, it's not acceptable. But we're talking, nonpartisan school board. These are people who just care. If they're getting a stipend, it's not a make or break stipend. So it's not like they're doing this for the money. It's not the 100-yard meter. It's a school board seat where the policies and that you set forth are important for all the students in your district. And you have to be very mindful of that. And so it's sad when you see that people take it to another level and that nasty level. But we experienced that, and I'm sure the women that are running now, the Black women that are running now, are going to experience that same thing, if not more so of it, because we are post, Cheeto guy, and I just foresee us, seeing all of that ugly nastiness coming out. But we always stay focused. Both you and I did. We never looked towards our opponent. Because when you look towards your opponent, you're wasting time and effort.
Well, I wasn't looking at them. They were looking at me. Like they get scared. They get scared.
What are they doing over there?
One of our listeners made a comment and said, when Judy's mom ran for school board, her opponent said, the problem is we have too many smart women in the system. Oh, there it is. He's putting it up. Oh, that's Kathy's dad. Kathy's dad is making, hi, Kathy's dad. Yeah, they don't, wait till my book is going to be out in literally 31 days. And I actually talk about, part of what I call the 10 commandments of the GOB. One is that the smart women are a threat. And so anytime a smart, strong woman steps up to run, and she has both the intellect and the drive and the accomplishments of what she has done, and she goes up against the opponents who, in many cases, they just can't compare in terms of life experiences and accomplishments, right? And so it's always awesome to see women like her step in. There's been so many great candidates. Like, we can't even get them all booked onto the show before. There's so many of them.
And I love, the list is long. I actually got my hands on a list. The list is long. And many of these are Black women and Black men who are running. And Aaron Jones is one to tell me your why is right in front of you. You're watching your why. And so I say, we didn't win, but the reason we ran was so all these people knew it's not that scary to run. So go run for that seat that you want. So I'm super excited that all these people have stepped up to run, and super excited when one of them tells me, I watched you run not once, but twice and lose both times, and you're still standing. And I just say, still I rise to fight another day.
I have to you. I didn't have the stomach to do it again.
No, you're doing other things. You're being this disruptor of all things bullcrap.
Yeah, good way of saying that. We have some good. Go ahead.
I think it's amazing when I see women like Kathy, women like the young ladies that are running over in the Spokane area. When I see women like that running in those rural areas, because half of my district was rural as well. You better come. You come strong and just keep pushing ahead, because those voices need to be heard. And I love what Kathy said. What did she say? 70% is kids of color in her district, and most of those are Latinx. And I'm like, wow, come on. Where are those voices? Because even in my district, the Hispanic voices, the parents, you don't hear their voice. They have no voice.
There was
those are the kids.
Last year or 2 years ago, a candidate in the Tri-City areas, he was a brown Hispanic young man named Brandon Pocasangre, and I had him on and listened to what he was going through trying to get elected in those counties too. It isn't
hard.
Yeah, it isn't fun. I'm not in a rural area, but I'm in a predominantly wealthy area, white wealthy that wants to protect a lot of the wealth, and so it was just mine was a whole different animal, as you know.
White, wealthy, and middle class.
Oh, ran
and privileged.
Yeah, very privileged. That's for darn sure. Yeah.
So you're trying to navigate all of that in that realm. No wonder you didn't have the stomach to do it again. You're like, I'm not doing that again.
Well, I had my people, and like Snow is just commenting about door knocking. I mean, my people, we were out door knocking everywhere, and so it was quite a process. The other thing that was really interesting to me when I ran is that people didn't really understand the issues. They only knew it on the surface. They knew
That's it.
Surface level, but when you tried to engage them into something deeper to help build understanding, I know a lot of folks just didn't understand these things, and so
they shut down. It's too much. But then what we have is uneducated voters voting for things that are against their best interest. Come on, people, vote in your best interest. All you need to do is dig a little and get that information. My husband and I talk about this all the time. Being an informed voter. An informed voter takes both sides of an issue and looks at it critically and says what is better for the greater good. And listening to your candidates who are talking about those issues that are most important to you and talking about those issues that affect your family personally. Because I always ask people when I was running, what is the one issue that affects you personally that you don't feel like you have any control over, or the policies that are being made, no one's listening to your voice?
Yes. Can you imagine, when she talked about the high percentage, 70% of the students in that district being of color? And I didn't catch if she quoted the percentage of teachers that were non-white. And we are adults that have to navigate that kind of a system. And it's difficult as an adult to navigate it. So can you imagine what it's like for these kids who don't, they're young and they don't have the, the seasoning yet. Right. And they don't understand. And then they have cops inside the schools. So, what the hell is going on that we have come to believe that it is okay to have police officers inside of a school? I can't get my head around that. I think
what are they called? SROs? Is that what they're called? Security resource officers.
Is that what their title is?
SROs. Yeah. What in the world? And again, what is the mindset there? Because for me, I'm always looking at, are they following me? Are they looking at me? Are they profiling me? I can't imagine being a teenager. I asked my kid and he was just like, I don't get in trouble. So I said, well, you're probably more scared of me than you are that SR.
Well, they're kids. They're kids. So the kids are going to get in trouble. The question is, why do we feel like we have to have
them, and contract for thousands of dollars, which that money could go for social workers and counselors who look like your kids at your school. So you're getting the Latinx, you're getting the Black, you're getting the AAPI counselors and social workers that look like those kids and can connect with those kids and those parents. Here in Gig Harbor, we have wonderful resources. Don't get me wrong. I think our resources are great, but I always wonder when a white woman is going into a kid of color's home and trying to understand why either mom's still at work, there's no dad, or there's a dad, there's no mom. Dad holds 2 jobs. Oldest has to cook dinner. They all have chores. These are not like your kids. Half the kids my kid grew up with, those kids didn't have chores. I'm trying to understand who the kids are whose parents didn't ever give them chores. Because once they get to college, they don't know how to clean a kitchen or clean a bathroom. So how is a white woman going in, or a white man going in and connecting with those children of color and their families with no lived experience of housing insecurity, job loss, layoff, whatever that issue is in that family, whatever that barrier is, how are you connecting? Help me understand how you're connecting. Mm-hmm. That's why I love the districts that have family support specialists, because they hire those folks. Generally, they are people of color, and generally they are people with lived experience that what our kids and our families are going through, and they meet the families where they're at. And I love that. But in some districts like my own, they don't have that. They do not have that.
I'm getting intel as we're talking that Lake Washington just paid $74,000 for the 20/21 school year, the pandemic year, they would go to the student's house if they didn't show up for online classes. Okay, well, what do you think that bore?
Okay, so who went to the kids? Who did that? Who? Give me the people that did that, because you didn't call me and ask me to do it. Because it was probably your kids of color, because they didn't have internet. They couldn't afford to have internet. Hello, there's so many reasons.
They, when we talk about these issues every week, we talk about either through corporate America or through politics. Right. They're the same, fundamentally the same problem, is that there is a lack of understanding of the ecosystem that is impeding this progress. And so when you have Black families and homes, when we're paid 63 cents to the dollar in corporate America
or less,
then you're working 2 jobs to do it. How do you sit on Zoom meetings? I've talked to a few people who are just being incredibly challenged and not wanting to go back to work into the office, because the push is now on to push all these folks back into the office in many of these companies. And the brown and Black people are saying, we don't want to go back in because we've escaped that toxic mess. And so we're willing to work from home. And so it's going to be fascinating to watch the outcome of some of these decisions that are being made by some of these corporations. So,
and I'm going to blast my ex-employer. I was told there wasn't a precedent. I'm driving 3 hours to work and 3 hours home. There's not a precedent for you to work 1 to 2 days at home or 1 to 2 days down south closer to my house, instead of being unhealthy and driving 3 hours into Seattle.
And now they're paying people to come to work. I mean, like Bonus is trying to incent people because they've taken a stance for so long. And without even understanding, like one of our listeners just said, Black people were the ones hit the hardest by COVID. And so and our families. And so without even having folks that understand this, and then we label them a student resource officer, and then we equip them with the gun, and then we equip them with the mentality of whiteness and what white families have, and think that applies, like the disconnect. And it's why I was asking Kathy about her, about public education, because, things to me are a disaster there. I just don't.
And we've seen the stories of children who are thriving in a chartered school environment. And we've seen, and we've talked to educators in the charter school environment where kids are thriving. Who cares if it's a charter school? The point is the child is thriving and is getting the education that they deserve and need.
Read yesterday in the LA Times, there was an article that came out about Dr. Dre, and Dr. Dre just set up a different school for kids. And so what is happening, look here, I'm going to say it this way, and particularly because I know a lot of the legislators watch this show. We are watching the feet of these legislators that put all this money into public education and didn't give $0 into the charter schools that were advancing Black kids, because they're playing that typical game of politics and where they want to funnel money. We are paying attention to the data that's going to come out of progress by heavier investment, because I guarantee you that is the same kind of solution, quote unquote, that corporations use, which is using the same strategies that have failed over and over and over and over again. And yes, we do need our own schools.
Our own schools. Go scenario.
Because our kids are being failed, and there's just no other way you're going to sit here and convince Black moms that we're just going to continue to pray and hope that we can keep our kids from having guns in their heads at 9 years old.
Right. And I think our Indigenous sisters and brothers and our AAPI sisters and brothers would say the same thing. I still remember being in junior high, and my friends who had come over from the islands, come over from Tonga and come over from Samoa and from Fiji. And not only us as kids going, oh, they look different, but they're kids, so all right. But the teachers just being like, And it's like, don't do that. Dive in and understand their culture, and dive in and understand why they're wearing the things around their waists and flip-flops to school. Dive in and understand. Don't just look at them sideways.
Can you imagine when students get to be in their early 20s and being in a school system, being in an environment that you have to worry about guns at your head day in and day out, the mental impact of that for the rest of their life, I can speak to that growing up as somebody that comes from trauma. It never goes away.
Exactly.
And so the psychology around what they're doing is just so misplaced. It's just so misplaced how they're thinking about it.
Right.
And yeah.
And I don't know. If we have that many school shootings, shouldn't we be doing something at the federal level and at the state level?
Yeah.
To be trying to avoid that instead of putting it at the
we need
local level?
We need our own schools, but away from all of that stuff, because
all the microaggressions and the ridiculousness of, can I touch your hair?
Or you're a student and you're acting out like kids do.
Exactly.
And you're the level of discipline, the disciplinary rates of kids. Right. It's just so
why are we expelled more and suspended more? Hello. And it's also the kids, the have-nots. Don't get it wrong. You poor, you white.
That's right. That's exactly.
Your parents don't come to the meetings. Your parents don't come to the open houses, the parent-teacher conferences. You're targeted. I'm sorry. I've seen it.
Your parents can't write a check. Let's be clear about
that.
Your parents can't write a check. And so writing the checks, let's look at, again, another thing in my book, the Felicity Huffmans who cheat their way. That is real. You go into these school systems and the people, look, I'll tell you an unrelated story, but it's related. And it's when my son was being recruited in basketball, in one of the schools that he was being recruited to, had a prominent NBA player father whose son was the same age as Aaron. And I remember talking with the coaches when we did the trip, and I asked about that student. And they were trying to talk to me like I was some dumb woman, right? And I looked at him like, I said this, his dad's name is on the outside of the building. Like, do you honestly believe that I'm going to believe that his dad is not going to write a check to make sure that his son plays over my son?
Exactly.
And so, like, that's what goes on. And so,
exactly.
What are you drinking, Joy?
Water! Everybody, it's water. It's water.
These are heavy topics.
Yeah, they are. But I love it. I love that we are bringing these topics to the forefront. I love that your book is going to come out and it's just going to shed light on corporate America. And it's going to give me all the life, because it's a lot of the things that I had to deal with, thinking no one else is going through the same thing that I was going through when I worked in corporate America. And
I'm starting to get a little anxious, and I mean in a
good way. In a good way, right?
There's a little bit of fear in me because I'm shining the light on the whiteness and the injustices that are being done. And as soon as you try to go for the money from the whites, that's when war breaks out. And so, I'm just a little concerned about that with some of the things I talk about. I talk about it respectfully, but the fact is that I'm shedding the light on the stuff that we need.
And showing us women, Black women, women of color, how to navigate those rooms and how to navigate those situations, which, God help you. Thank you for writing a how-to book. Hello.
It's not quite a how-to book.
I know, but it is for me.
Yes, I can't sit here and say I was successful in, for a period of time I was, but the book is meant to, the term I use is as a conduit for the Black readers, a conduit to liberty, so that they have access to information that they otherwise would not have. And then for white readers to help empower them to do something different. And so that people can recognize when this stuff's happening. People don't recognize, back to, Kathy running for the seat, and, people don't recognize and understand the difference it makes when we have representation, and when that person and what that person can do for the people that look like them. And so, yeah.
It's a good thing. It's a really good thing. And I'm happy you did it. I know a lot of work went into that, and love and dedication. And I'm just happy you did it. And I'm so excited. Oh, Jessica said, spill the tea. Nope. You have to buy the book and read it. Hello.
Oh, Lord. Look at Flo is talking about, it's really important.
It is really important. The curriculum is important for all. Yes, but it isn't taught in K through 12. And that's what we have to get across to people, across to the voters. That is not something that's taught in K through 12. And really what we should be asking for, if we're going to talk about that at the K through 12 level, for me, I'm looking at it as, why are we not teaching history, the real history of our country? And that includes Indigenous people, that includes AAPI people, and most certainly includes, because it was on the backs of Black people that this country
Let me just say this. Now that Juneteenth is an official holiday, I just hope that people who don't believe or support Black people will continue to go to work on that day and not take that as a holiday for themselves.
Oh, we'll see about that.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. And I want to give a shout out, because our city, Gig Harbor, Juneteenth, Aaron Jones will be our keynote speaker, 10 o'clock Saturday morning. We've got a virtual, and then we've got 1 hour mini rallies around town of us just holding signs and waving at people. So I'm super excited about that. And there's lots more. There's one in Kent. I saw Dawn Bennett, who we're going to have next week, I think. Come on. She's got one in Kent. There's several in Seattle. There's one down in Olympia. I mean, there's so many. So shout out to every community who's celebrating it. Thank you. And let's just keep making it bigger and better. Tacoma's doing, God, I think they're on their like 12th or 13th or 15th or whatever. So I love that communities are celebrating. So
me too. Too.
Yeah. So exciting show next week, Dawn Bennett.
So we have
another Emerge sister.
And Cliff Cawthorn is coming on with her. Cliff is running for the council. So it will be fun to have a whole nother good hashtag Black Girl Magic to talk about her run. I can't wait to hear. I haven't talked to her since she first launched the campaign, so I'm hoping everything's going good for her.
Yeah, it looks like it is. And I think I just want to tell everyone out there, all of our listeners, even if it's just $5 or $10, $20, $25, I'm not working full time right now. I'm working part time, and I'm trying to give $25 every time I get a chance to one of our women of color who are running, particularly our Black women who are running for office. That little amount of money goes a long way, and it helps. So I'm hoping that everyone is really just picking up the mantle and just helping any candidate go knock doors. You can't give money, then go knock doors. When they start making phone calls, make some phone calls. Writing postcards, write some postcards, whatever you have to do to help them get over that finish line. So we've got some great candidates here in this region running. We've had them on this show. Thank you, Cindi, for just chasing people down. And, I thought Shakri was awesome. Kira Daniels, Chelsea McElroy, all of them. She said, I learned Black history in first grade. What school does Sonaria go to? Because the only thing I learned about was Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks. And that's over.
Too funny. Well, listen, Joy, we're just about at the hour. Again, I was glad that we had some time to talk after Kathy left today. I love talking about these different candidates. I love highlighting the different folks that are running and bringing them forward. So to our listeners who joined us tonight and participated, there was a lot of chatter going on tonight. Thank you all for joining us and engaging with us. We love all of you. We have another great show next week. So we'll see you all then. Have a great week, everybody.
Happy Pride Month.
Half that up in sacks, I favor black businesses. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Yeah. Yeah. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Yo.